Okay, well, welcome to the March Aero Club safety meeting for July 2013. And if you don't know what I just said or made any sense, then you're probably in the wrong place. My name's Roger Mann. I'm the safety officer. And, of course, we got the Aero Club manager sitting up here drinking something in a plastic bottle of some kind up here. And let's see, where are our instructors at? None of our instructors here except for Fred. Fred's the only instructor that showed up.
And Steve's here, but he don't really count.
He doesn't count. Not at all. Yeah. And David G., our mechanic, you can thank him for the airplane still flying. So, oh, here comes the doctor. You missed the last couple of meetings, so I was worried. Don't forget to sign in for those of you that came in late. You just missed the best video of the night. Okay, well, let's get started. Okay, we usually follow kind of an agenda just so we can keep things going. And one of the first things we do for the night is that we introduce anybody that's new to the club. And even if you haven't joined yet, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself? And
my name's Kevin Willard. I'm new to March. Got certified in 2008 at Kadena Air Base. Flew for 3 years, went to Florida, flew a little bit, went to Germany, flew once to get current, and that was it. And that was in 2010. So now we're here, and I want to get back in here. I'm missing it terribly. So.
Thank you. Welcome to the club. Okay, anybody else new that I haven't introduced before? Anybody else? Anybody that's old? Yeah, well, we got a lot of those. Yeah, I know. I noticed some people haven't been here for a while. Okay, and we got Art here, so we're okay. All right. Okay. Next item we usually do is new pilot ratings. Does anybody, this includes soloing, it could be a new airplane that you got checked out in, FAA action taken on you, anything like that. I know, George, where are you? I know that sometimes, well, we haven't got to you yet. We'll get to that in a minute. Yeah. Anybody that's done anything new in flying? I don't see any of our Air Force pilots here tonight either. Huh. Okay. Well.
We don't have safety, we don't have ops, we don't have maintenance here.
Yeah, I know. We don't have nobody here tonight. Golly. Experiences. Okay, now, George Watson. I know you've had some experiences.
Yeah, I got one for you.
Okay, Gary. I knew it.
No, really, I know none of us do this kind of thing, but there was the people from Palomar come over to Ramona to practice to go in the helicopter. And one came down the other day. We have two pads, the south pad and the north. So they touched down and got off the ground about 2 feet and quit out of gas. So I asked the instructor, she said, well, when I left Palomar, it was registered half tank. I said, you didn't look at the tank? She said, no. She said, we always go by the gauge. So, like I said, I know we don't do that. So I had to get the gas truck and take them over there. Then they on their way.
Didn't hurt the aircraft, the helicopter.
No. I think the instructor was very sketched to it. So, let's see. Oh yeah, we had a little incident at Fallbrook about 3 weeks ago. Cessna 170. It was pretty warm, like 90 degrees. His altitude about 3,000 feet. 2 pretty good sized guys. And he crashed on takeoff, stalled it out. If you're familiar with Fallbrook Airport, just a little bit past the flag there, the windsock. Flipped over at about 45-degree angle. Both wings bent, and the main landing gear, one of the main gears, and propel, of course. And the passenger received one little cut on his ear, but they bandaged the whole head. so they came down and picked it up last Friday, and they were bringing it back to Corona. He was out of Corona, so they were coming up to 15, just north of the Border Patrol checkpoint, and the trailer started fishtailing, and it flipped. So,
That was in the paper, by the way.
so now he doesn't have an airplane at all.
George, how come they just didn't keep it in the air? Did you talk to Bob? I mean, he could have gone over to the, the colors thing or
Little spot?
the little park there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's downhill for a long way, isn't it?
Yeah, but he was airborne right there about where the windsock is.
Wait, did you
And
pull it
stalled
off?
out and just came right down. He's lucky he hadn't climbed any higher, I guess. So, but that wasn't.
How much runway do you have left? Did he pull it off early or?
Yeah. Well, no, he had about half runway left, and the runway is 2160. So, and my experience was, I was in the T-34 approaching the pattern at Ramona, and down about gear speed, and there was a big old wasp in the cockpit. So I want to tell you, check for insects in the cockpit. So I reached over to grab him, and I was thinking about opening the canopy, but I grabbed for him, and there's a little hole right there on the right side. T-34 driver, he went right out that hole. So, check for insects before you.
Put that hole there for that reason, George.
Thanks, George. I mean, if nobody has a story, George always does. For those of you that don't know, he's the airport manager at Fallbrook, so
The point is, like, I was distracted. I could have,
yeah,
forgotten to distract.
that could have been a serious situation.
You scared those bugs, huh?
Yeah, there are some AOPA stories. How many have looked at that one the AOPA has where snake in the airplane? That,
I've seen a movie of that.
Down in Texas.
yeah, well, yeah, that was a different kind of movie though. But I have actually known a guy that actually had a rattlesnake in his plane, but he got it on the ground no problem. But anybody else?
Yeah, we had a deal with, yesterday at Redlands. A student on a solo flight, as the instructor gets out of the airplane out of Long Beach, proceeds to take off, go downwind 26 and land, and then on his turnout at the second to the last turnoff on the west end. Now that's down 4,000 feet. He's going so fast that he ends up in the 5-foot ditch, and that's as far as he got. So I don't quite understand if he's been making landings and all of a sudden he's making an extra long one. But just remember, Redlands has a 100-foot differential between the east touchdown zone and the west touchdown zone. So you've got to touch down all the numbers and then deaccelerate. But you can make it even at heavy weights.
All right, anybody else? Okay, if not, okay, we'll talk to the Aero Club manager. He'll get to stand up here and yell at us. After that, we'll go through the Know Your SOPs. And then right after we do that, we do in-depth knowing of your SOPs. That'll be explained a little bit later. And then we'll have another little short reminder of density altitude. Just a reminder. That's all it is. Okay. Bob Pierce, Aero Club manager.
That's what airplane is.
Yeah, that's the 182. That was when the scouts were out here and they were flying in the thing. And this is one of the pictures of it.
Real quick, I sent out an email late this afternoon, the 27th of July, we'll do a flyaway for breakfast. So those people who are interested, put your names on the list. If you need a ride, call the Aero Club and we'll try and find a seat for you. But we'll either do El Monte or we'll do Camarillo. Since we had to cancel 3 times to Camarillo last year, and we got good weather on the 27th, maybe we'll try Camarillo. It's a nice flight up that way and back. So we'll do that on the 27th of July. On invoices, as a reminder again, we'll round up on the Hobbs meter. It all ends up being the same. And then do a checklist. My checklist is, do you have the credit card slip attached to the right invoice? This is going to be accounting and not customer. Make sure you've got a coupon, if you have a coupon, listed as your deduction for the month, the $5 coupon we have on there. So make sure you got the coupon. So all I'm asking you to do is check the credit card slip. Have you signed it? Does it match the amount on the invoice? And do you have a coupon that you put on the invoice? Put a paper clip on it and stick it in the box. Interesting article this month in the Bonanza magazine, which I received yesterday and demolished it this morning when I spilled coffee all over it. Talking about riding the brakes of an airplane, and the temperature of 5606 hydraulic oil, which is basically used in most general aviation aircraft. The flash point for 5606 is about 246 to 48 degrees Fahrenheit. So since we have high temperatures during the day here at March, and on a couple aircraft we have to ride brakes to get it to turn, that happens to be one aircraft that we have in the system with the T-34s, sometimes we have a tendency to ride the brakes. And why are we riding the brakes? Well, first of all, we're carrying too much power. So what we do is when we start riding the brakes, because we have a small puck that's not any bigger than this, for the whole assembly, we start heating it up. When it gets about 246 degrees, then the seals start deteriorating. And now you're susceptible to not only brake failure, but a brake fire. So just be aware, keep the engines back to idle, keep the pressure on the yoke back when we taxi to keep the pressure off the nose wheel. And if you've got to do it, just tap the brakes, but don't stay on the brakes. And we can save a lot of money by keeping those brakes in good shape and not having to do repairs on them. So we'll wait for Roger. Any questions on what I've covered? I've got some other good data on carbon monoxide. We were just talking about an aircraft that nosed in. And I'm going to do a presentation on carbon monoxide poisoning and the dangers that are involved. We try and keep the little tabs current in the airplanes. If you see one that's maybe outdated, they're due about every 16 to 18 months. Make sure you write it up and let somebody in the office know, and we'll replace that little donut in there that notifies you when it turns black that you're susceptible to carbon monoxide poisoning and death. And I can't stress it. I keep one in my airplane, I change it out about once a year. So just keep us aware if you see something that's not there, that doesn't look right, so that we can check it.
Okay, thank you, Bob. Any questions so far? Okay, let's get moving.
On the flyover breakfast thing,
Yeah,
what time is it and how does it work?
It's on the email. We'll try and get airborne between 8:30 and 9.
And when are you guys coming back?
They're normally back around noon.
Oh, okay. So where do I sign?
well,
Read the email
Yeah.
and call the Aero Club. Don't tell us now, we'll forget about it.
yeah. You'll need to get a hold of us, either call us or send an email to us. Okay, know your SOPs. Okay, what this is basically what we do is we cover real quick a paragraph out of our SOPs and just kind of cover it real quick just so that we can make sure that everybody, has gone over it. You are required to read the SOPs when you first join the club. As many of you know, you signed a little agreement letter in the thing there. It says that you were, obviously when you sign it, you probably haven't read it yet, but you are supposed to read it. And much of the information that you need to know is all in the SOPs. What we're starting out tonight is in Chapter 5, Safety. And basically all it says is that, it's the March Aero Club safety, the objectives of safety, of course, is accident prevention program is to ensure safe procedures. And techniques are part of all the club operations. Special program emphasis included training and standardization and pilot currency. The goal of the March Aero Club safety program is 0 accidents and incidences. On ground safety, the pilot in command is responsible for all safe ground handling. Most of this stuff is pretty much common sense stuff that you should already know. A tow bar will be used in moving the aircraft in the vicinity of the refueling area and in the tie-down area. Aircraft will be secured by a 3-point tie-down chains, so both wings and the tail, and they will be chocked. If you're going to offload passengers, and of course the guys that help out doing the Boy Scouts and stuff know this very well, that every time you unload or offload passengers, it doesn't matter who they are, you are to shut the engine down, and you are to have the master switch and the magnetic switch off. Everything is like as if you're parking the airplane. And any questions? Okay, now.
What's the magnetic switch?
Magneto switch. Did I say that wrong? Yes, I did. Okay, now, what we're going to do, normally what we do is we go into the safety meeting. We are going to do the same thing, except this time we're going to continue on with the SOPs, because tonight is involving the SOPs. What we're going to be talking about, the next section right after what we just saw, is also about refueling the airplanes. We are going to go into that a little bit. This is just for overview. This is for safety purposes, okay? There are a lot of little things that we could talk about that people are doing or not doing with the refueling. And so what we're doing is we're running over an overview of this. We are going to be using a T-41 A model. However, you know, the T-34s, you know, they do the same thing. Okay, what do the SOPs say? Okay, all refueling operations will comply with Air Force Manual 34-232, refueling. Refueling operation will not be accomplished when thunderstorms are reported within 5 miles of March Air Reserve Base. This does sometimes happen, especially during this time of year. Bob and I have stood there at the door in the Aero Club in August and have literally watched a thunderstorm just move closer and closer to the field. Lightning is hitting everywhere, or at least, you know, not like it is back east or in Oklahoma, but for California, you know, it's quite a bit. Anytime you have that kind of movement, whatever you do, don't refuel the airplane. Most people know that. We've had some guys out flying when this phenomena has taken place, and they have done just exactly that. Paid attention to what needs to be done. The tower will let you know if the thunderstorm is within 5 miles. They also let us know. They give us a phone call and let us know that too. Each aircraft will be serviced to include fuel, oil, and cleaning of windshields after each flight. I know that the people that fly the T-34s are very much aware about keeping the T-34s clean. But this also involves the T-41s, okay? T-41s and, of course, the 182, they need to be cleaned also. And though we don't necessarily have to get underneath in the belly of it like you do a T-34, you still do need to clean off at least the wing, the leading edge of the wings, the windshield, and any of the windows on the side. I've come back and found those things dirty and gone out there and had to clean them off. Try to keep these airplanes clean because they are your airplanes, and keep it clean for the next guy.
Yeah,
David.
Roger, the T-41s, they do get pretty bad on the bottom. These 2 new engines we got, they're still breathing a little bit.
Okay.
You know, they're getting better, a lot better now. They're not as much oil.
Not as bad,
They're
yeah.
wiped off on the bottom. They're
Yeah.
still breathing quite a bit, breaking in.
Yeah. Remember, it's still standing open for those who choose to do so. They can get a bucket and they can get some water, or not water, bucket, and whatever they can to clean the airplanes, fly the airplane to either Hemet or French Valley and wash the airplane. You get 30 minutes off the flight. Okay, we pay for that 30 minutes to do that. Now, obviously, if you take off after you've done it and fly another 3 hours, no, you don't. You still have to pay for that. But we do give you 0.5 for going and doing that. Just watch out for the antennas. Don't knock an antenna off, because that does. I noticed that a couple of Civil Air Patrol airplanes that happened to, because they had some cadets washing and they knocked some antennas off. Just be careful about the antennas, but. We've had a couple of members who have religiously done that. Tyler has also taken the T-34 down there and has cleaned them. Yeah.
Whereabouts at either airport do you take them to do their washing?
Well, I know at French Valley it's like halfway down. It's as you go. Yeah. Is there one at Riverside too? I guess there is. Yeah. I don't know where the one in Hemet is. Yeah. Yeah, so ask, well, also look at your airport directory too if you have one. They should also show you on there too, but if not, just ask, somebody like the restaurant there. But I know at French Valley, it's about halfway down. It's kind of over near where the hangars are.
Yes, a little bit past that FBO at French Valley.
Yeah, okay, yeah. Yeah.
South of the restaurant.
It's south of the restaurant, yeah, and it's actually south, or kind of south of where their FBO is, yeah. So it might be just worth your time to just do that. Just get the airplanes cleaned up and it makes them look nicer.
The other antenna you need to look at on the belly is the transponder antenna. It looks like a wire with a ball on the end of it, and it's 3 to 4 inches in length that sits on the belly. If you're using the scrub brush and you hit that, you break it off, you've lost the transponder, and then it really costs us a lot of bucks to take and try and repair that, because we have to fight it through the flooring. Got to pull everything out of the aircraft to get to it.
Okay, any more questions? All right, continuing on. Let's see, we've got the next item here. Fire extinguisher will be available when aircraft refueling is being performed. Then there should be one out there, and periodically the fire department does check it. We're supposed to check it too, but the fire department does. And a ladder will be used for the high wing airplanes, 182 and the T-41s, and we'll talk a little bit about that. Okay, there are these stages of refueling: taxi to refuel, set up, refuel, post-refuel, and then if there's an emergency, and then Air Force Instruction 34217. Okay, that line out there, I know it's fading even more, but there is a taxi line where you're supposed to go to. That's where you to stop the airplanes. I know that the T-34 sometimes come around from the side, and there is also a limit line there too. But park or try to stop the airplane right at that point, and then the next step is that you pull the aircraft with the tow bar up to the pump. Don't ever taxi up to that point, because if something goes wrong, we could have a huge problem, especially if the propeller goes into the pump. Okay, setup. Okay, chock the main gear, ground the aircraft. On the T-41s, you got two different places. You can do it off the muffler, as it shows up there, or you can do it up on the wing spar, on the tie down ring. Those two places you can do that. And that, the puller for the ground wire sometimes can be a little tricky. Sometimes it likes to roll back up on you. You just have to make sure that you get it out far enough. Okay, set up the place the ladder. Okay, safety item. If you need to use the ladder, try not to get so close to the wing that you end up having to kind of go over the wing, leading edge of the wing, and you're kind of leaning out to try to get the nozzle in. Or don't get the ladder so far out that you're leaning over to try to get the nozzle in. Both situations are not real good. You could end up falling off the ladder real easy. Watch out for the heat in the summertime, especially now, because on top of that wing, even though you just came back, it's already hot up there. So don't get up on the ladder and ow and fall off the ladder. Ladder safety is one of those things we need to be aware of. Use this ladder that's shown here. Don't use those little step ladders, okay, unless you're so tall that you can do that, like Steve Fitch or somebody like that. Okay, make sure you set the meter, okay? Make sure you zero it out. I wish I could tell you how many times I've seen the tally sheet and you sit there and here's, you know, for an hour flight, somebody put 24 gallons of fuel in. And you're going, what? How can that be? I know some of you, know who you are. And one of them's not here tonight either. And I add it to the amount of fuel of the previous one, and sure enough, what they did is they didn't reset that. Number two, when you do the tally, you're actually not supposed to use that meter there. You're supposed to use the little numbers up here when you tally it up, right here. It can come out different by a tenth. Sometimes it will. But you're supposed to add and subtract between the difference between those little numbers up there. You're not you can use the big numbers as a reference. And if you have been using the little numbers, that thing I was telling you about where you forgot to reset it will be different. If you sit there and subtract the numbers off on the top one and you find it's only 12 gallons and that thing says 24, you know you messed up somewhere. So that's why you use the little numbers, because if for some reason you forget to reset it, that's what's going to happen. Any questions on that?
Comment.
Yeah.
When you're done refilling, make sure you flip that little stainless steel lid back over the digits,
Ah.
because the sun takes those numbers out, and we're running real low on new numbers
Yeah.
to replace the digits. So
Yeah.
just cover them back up, and it really helps.
Jerry is our guy that does this stuff. He's the one that replaces it when the thing wears out. And so take it from his word. He's getting tired of changing it all the time. Yeah.
So is the big counter not calibrated?
It works, but see, the reason why we do it is because it's to preclude somebody from putting down there the wrong numbers. Because what'll happen is that somebody will just read that. That's what they put in the tally sheet rather than what is in the little numbers. Now, we still write the little numbers down, but that's the main big reason. I mean, we can figure it out. It's just that you can always tell when somebody forgot to reset it. Also, too, when you flip the little thing to reset the big numbers, it sometimes will jiggle the little numbers and they'll actually move. And that way, I always reset it before I actually write down the numbers on top, because how many of you know that you're supposed to round up? Okay, if the next number is just rolling over and you're not quite sure if it is, I guarantee you when you flip that thing to knock these numbers, bring them to zero, that little number is going to move. It'll boom, it'll all of a sudden shift. And then that's the number you put down in the tally sheet. One other item too, for those like David G. or Steve Fitch or Bob Pierce, and sometimes, I don't know if you've ever fueled your airplane here or not. I don't. Yeah, for you guys that fuel your airplane, it's really especially you need to be accurate about what you're doing, because obviously you don't want to overpay. Okay, and yeah, that's one thing you really. The rest of you guys on our airplanes, it's, if you make an error, like for instance, let's say you can't read the numbers on the tally part of the sheet, and if it's not the same, go ahead and use it anyhow, because you're not paying it out of your pocket directly, like Art and Bob and Steve and Dave are doing. Those guys, they're paying right out of their pocket. It all absorbs into the club eventually, although that can get expensive too, to us as a club. Okay, pull the holes out. As you can see right there, all right, sometimes when you pull this thing out, it'll back on you. What you got to do is you got to get that little, the little pawl there up into the teeth so that it catches. And sometimes you may have to do a little bit of moving back and forth to get it to do that. One of the things you don't want to end up doing is that make sure you get the hose out far enough, because you don't want to have the hose just long enough to get it up on the wing top and then have that thing break loose on you. Well, you're either going to have to drop the nozzle or you're just going to have to take a ride right off that ladder. I don't know if that's happened to any of you or not. Years ago, we used to have a nozzle weighed twice as much as this nozzle does. This nozzle's light. Any questions?
Another comment.
Okay, comment.
Make sure when you're reeling it back in, to go easy, don't let the hose just slam back in, because the dog mechanism there, or the pawl on the left-hand side, that catches that gear mechanism, and if it's winding up fast, it bends it, and then it doesn't work with the crack from there on out until somebody goes out there and straightens it out again. So
Yeah,
in nice and easy, but not
Yeah.
only the grounding reel, but especially with the hose reel.
right.
Take it back in easy.
And you're a little ahead of me, but yeah, we're going to get there. And but thanks for bringing that up now. That way. Okay, next step, of course, is to turn on your nozzle. I don't like turning on the fuel. The one that's in the picture on the left, and it's the upper one with the padlock on it. It's the upper switch is the fuel pump. The lower switch is incidentally the light. The big picture there, that is the light. If you happen to be coming back here at nighttime, and the light does work, incidentally. It didn't used to, but it does now. So, let's see. Oh, that's what I was going to say. I usually don't like turning on the until after I've pulled the nozzle all the way out, and then I come back and I turn on the pump. Because if you're pulling out on that thing and you got the pump going and you accidentally hit that handle, guess what? You're going to be putting fuel out. And this base gets really, really, really hyper about fuel spills, no matter how small it is. We just hope that EPA isn't watching us if that ever happens. It's a whole nother ball game when it comes to the fruit strainers when you're draining the sump and what you're supposed to do with it. Officially, we're supposed to put it in a can. You're not supposed to just throw it. But the guys that work for EPA on the base know that we don't put it in a can, although we do have a can out there for it. But for the most part, by the time you do anything with it, it evaporates. But if you're pulling that nozzle out and you have that pump on while you're pulling it out, it'll do a little bit more than that. So I usually keep it off until I get it out.
Another point of issue.
Yeah.
When you're pulling out the hose, and you're going to pull it out, we'll say 40 feet, pull it out a portion of it, go back and grab another handful at the reel and pull it out. If you keep pulling on the hose near the end and you're pulling on the fitting, there's a good possibility that you can stretch the hose to create some form of deterioration of the hose or a detachment of the fitting itself.
Yeah, that's a good point. Okay, gas cap. T-34s have something similar. And refuel. This picture here was taken when we used to have a grounding wire on the nozzle. We don't have that anymore. One of the things is just, make sure that the nozzle stays in contact with the spout until the refillings are complete, which of course you're going to be doing anyhow. One of the little things there is if you're wearing Nomex flight suit, you must assure with hand on the aircraft grounding connector on an unpainted surface. We used to do that in the 141 in the Air Force. We used to have to make sure that every time we came up the airplane that you grabbed the grounding wire and grounded yourself. No smoking or any ignition whatsoever within 50 feet. And of course, as mentioned in the SOPs, thunderstorms within 5 miles, you stop refueling. Any questions? Okay, then the next. Well, yeah. I don't know how many have been told that when you're refueling like that, if you're talking on your cell phone, it could start a fire. You know, they used to do that, and they actually even have it on some gas pumps with your car. They even have a little picture up there. It's don't talk on your cell phone. Yes, I see people doing it all the time, though. It's funny because I've not seen anything said yet as far as refueling an airplane yet, saying that you can't talk on your cell phone while you're refueling.
Did something on that on refueling on airplane cars, and it was caused by static electricity when you got out of the car.
Yeah. Had nothing to do with the phone, yeah. Yeah, when they got in there, yeah, their phone was ringing, and they crossed the seat, and of course the static electricity started the fire. Static electricity can be an interesting thing. I know Air Force is very hyper on it. Navy could care less. So every time we went to a Navy base, there was not even any grounding points. So we just refueled anyhow. Okay, after you get done refueling, get down off the ladder, turn off the pump. At that point, I might even put the padlock on at that point, especially if you're not refueling. Now, of course, the T-34s, if all you guys just came back from a formation flight, obviously there's going to be several of you refueling. All right, and then here what Jerry was talking about, rolling up the hose. Be really careful about it. Be very careful. Don't let this thing go plowing right into the roller, because it can do some damage, and you don't want to be doing that. This is, we are self-contained in the Aero Club, and anytime we have to replace any of this stuff, it's lost revenue for the club. And believe me, they're looking at us really close. The base commander is on our side, and so is our boss that Bob and I have. They all want us to succeed, but they're watching our bottom line, and every time we have something that breaks like this and we got to spend money, that raises the eyebrow. Okay, and then of course pull the grounding wire and then read the meter. And we kind of went over that a little bit earlier. Okay, make sure you replace the ladder and lock it up. We want you to lock up the ladder because there are some people out here that would like to take the ladder and use it and then forget to put it back. The guys who have their own airplanes that are here, of course, know where to get the key too. And then log your fuel. Make sure you log it for the airplane you actually did refuel on. Okay. We've had a couple of times where people have put it on the wrong airplane. Also, too, if you look on the left-hand side, I noticed that some of the students have a tendency, some of the new guys, they'll just automatically put it right here, thinking, oh, that's where they put it, and not realizing that it's broken down to each individual airplane up here. So, kind of watch yourself, and then if you've been flying like the 182 and then all of a sudden you're flying the T-41C, remember that you're flying the T-41C. Don't mark it on the 182 because you've been so used to doing that. Another thing, names. Please put your name on there. I keep getting somebody who gets putting blank on there, and I have to now go and find out who it was and when, and who it was that did the refueling, and also the date too. usually it just is a little extra work for me to have to figure out who did it. Any questions on this? Be careful about the wind blowing these papers around. Make sure that they are on the clipboard securely, because this is the only record that we have right here on the refueling. Okay, if you use oil, put it in the proper place. If you'll notice, right next to the outhouse there, to the left is a barrel. In that barrel is where empty oil cans go, right in there. Also, of course, inside that yellow outhouse, you've got rags, you've also got oil, and you've got funnels in there too to help you do it as clean as possible.
What else do you put in that can besides the empty oil containers, Roger?
Nothing.
What again?
Nothing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Hopefully everybody heard that.
Yeah. Do not use it as a trash can. It is not a trash can. And believe me, we could get in some big time trouble if EPA people decide to open that can and find something like pieces of paper in there. And they can charge us a lot of money, like $10,000, $15,000 fine if they see that kind of stuff. Okay, now, in case there's an emergency and you need to, let's just say the nozzle broke off the end of the thing. Well, one of the first things you do, of course, is shut off the pump. But there's also some other. What if there's a fire? What if it's feeding a fire? What if that's happening? Well, if you look out here, right there is our truck. There's our front entrance to the club. Notice the hangar to the south next to it. That's the customs hangar. On the northwest corner of that hangar, right there is a box. And then that box has a pull-down switch, and you can go up to it and you can actually pull down.
Right up here.
Yeah, and that's the close-up of it down there. And you just pull down on that, and that shuts the power off to the whole system out there. It just shuts everything off, electrically wise. Okay? Why it's been put on the customs hangar, I don't know.
It's simple, that's where the electrical unit went out.
Okay.
When we did that, yeah, that was the only place we could merge in
Plus,
with the circuit breaker.
the tank and the pump used to be a lot further down, and it used to be a straight-out shot.
Ah, okay.
That's why we went there.
Yeah. Well, I figured it had something to do with it being, a while, for being done a long time ago. It's just like any of the stuff that's going on.
The downside is if you pop that circuit breaker, customs closed for the night, and the circuit breaker is located inside customs.
Yep.
So
Yeah.
it ain't gonna get turned on because customs, no one on the base can get in their building.
Yeah.
But there's fuses, supposed to be 2 spare fuses in the box,
Yeah.
but they haven't been used up, because it's a 30-amp fuse disconnect.
Yeah. I actually haven't gone down there and looked at it for a while, and I need to do so just to kind of look at it.
Used to blow a lot. And they rewired the building.
Okay. Any questions on this, on refueling, or any additions? Just be careful out there. It's summertime. You might, you want to get in a big hurry and you want to get the plane refueled. Just be careful. Just don't, especially for you guys in the Cessnas where you have to climb up on the ladder. You guys with the T-34s, you guys have it easy all the way around. Well, not really, because when you got to go underneath the wing, you get on your hands and knees. That's but just be careful with it. Okay, if there's no questions on the refueling, as I promised, the quick reminder on density altitude. Remember, it's hot. The higher the altitude, the less dense the air. The temperature, the warmer the air, the less dense the air is. And then humidity does play a factor in there. We out here in California, for the most part, don't have to worry a lot about it. But there are times that when it's, it can be a lot of humidity in the air, and it can cause some problems with power in the airplane. But for the most part, remember when you're going any place like Big Bear or anything like that, just be careful. You know, watch your weight, watch for that density altitude. Just like somebody said tonight, I don't go up there until it's December. That's probably a good clue. Just don't go up there at all. Okay, let me see. Now, today I asked if there was any problems going on about the maintenance on the runways out here, and we were told that no, everything is clear, it's all done. But then we had Doc Kerber gee whiz, now I can't even think of your name. It just went right on my head. Martindale flew today, and they would not let them do stop and goes with the T-34 today because they had construction people out there. So I don't know what's going on right now. They have been doing construction out there, putting the lighting system out there, and I don't know, you know, if they're still doing it. They claimed that they weren't, but then we found out it still affects our operation. So the big thing there is to be really aware of it, okay? Just watch the NOTAMs, and when you do take off and leave out of the Aero Club, you might want to just ask, is there going to be any problems with using 3.0 and 1.2 for doing stop and goes, or for the Cessnas touch and goes? Because there just may still be some problems going on out there. Just be very aware of it. Real quick, I don't know if Bob, if you talked about the oil leaks being summertime, because I went to the bathroom when you were talking. So.
No.
Yeah,
we're working on it.
Yeah, well, it's it's summertime, and the airplanes tend to leak a little bit because of the heat. One of the other things too that was brought up, FOD. We are responsible for FOD on our ramp, and we also get written up if the base finds FOD. And it gets put in a big old newsletter that goes base-wide telling all the culprits that got FOD laying out on their ramp. Well, guess what? We are one of the ones that gets written up too, and our names get blazing lights. I guess it's a good way to advertise, but when you're out there, just moving the airplane at all, even if you go out there and you don't fly, but you're doing a pre-flight, or you fly and you come back and refuel, all the whole time, kind of keep your eyes open down on the ground. If you see anything laying on the ground, pick it up. Just pick the thing up and just bring it on inside. And, well, there is actually, did we have a container that would take, that we would...
Yeah, but it's clear up at the customs gate.
Yeah.
So just bringing in, what we're really looking at is the hard concrete separation tar, the black stuff, because the trucks keep driving over it and it keeps breaking up. So as you walk back and forth, you see a couple pieces, just pick it up and throw it in the bucket there by the computer, by the flight training program. So that's what I end up doing. Periodically I get out and walk. I believe there's going to be a walk in the morning. I probably won't be there. But we try and keep our ramp. In the last year we've been doing awful well with the ramp and the ramp cleanup, and periodically you'll find some bigger pieces. And then we get a little bit of blowover by the T-34s from the helicopters. So if you can just pick up the pieces, you walk back and forth and just throw it in the bucket or throw it in the Dempsey dumpster as you come in, and that's fine. I had one other, I just lost it.
Well, and another thing too is that they took down the north sock, the wind sock, on the north end of our runway out there. Now, I don't know if that's just temporary or if that's permanent. But they called on Friday and said that the sock was taken down. The sock on the south end is still there, but on the north end it's gone.
Yeah, they used to have a helo pad on Delta and 30. That's where they had a helipad. Now they moved it down to the other end, so they don't need a windsock.
Yeah, well, yeah, we're going to have to, yeah. Well, we have the other discussion too. What we're talking about with the club. I guess that's it. I got, not unless you got some more. We got other questions.
Don't forget that you can always, the tower can give you a wind just prior to landing. So if you're on short final, just say requesting winds, and they should give you a wind before you touch down, so you can just double check without looking for a sock. The sock itself, as long as you got a towered airport, is really not required, but it's required for certain types of operations in the training section of it. So we're not sure where we're going right now with the double windsock. I just need to check with Chris Davis and see what we require on that. Yeah, Fred?
But one of the justifications that I had for both windsocks was the fact that our winds are given at the approach end of runway 32 and the approach end of runway 14.
Yeah, that's true.
That's 1.5 miles away. So
Yeah.
I justified having a windsock there because the winds they give you is always estimated, and the winds can vary 10 knots, 20 degrees, whatever. So that's how I justified both windsocks.
I'll check on that in the morning.
Yeah.
See what we can do.
Yeah.
Okay. Boy, we're early. I could go another 5 minutes, but I won't. Okay, next meeting's on 20 August 2013, and if you have any questions about the meeting, we got it taped this time again. Jason Rurick has been the one taping these meetings ever since Ken Benner had to leave the club for personal reasons. And Jason has been doing an excellent job in getting these things taped. So I appreciate it. And we want to give him a round of applause for that. Yeah. All right. Okay, that's it. And I need to see Gabe.